I was raised Catholic in Fort Collins, Colorado. Being presented with a watered-down version of the faith early in public high school, I fell into many grave temptations. Seeking for the truth and a deeper sense of purpose, I rediscovered the fullness of Catholicism, actually, to provide the truth, the fulfillment of desire, and the call to greatness that I'd been searching for. Quickly, I realized the right response was to give God everything. So I dove into the traditions, the wisdom of the faith, particularly with the traditional Mass, along with the mystical and ascetical theology of the Church, reading the old lives of the saints, and other spiritual reading. So as time went on, after studying in Rome when I was 19, I moved to France, of all places, to discern and be formed for 1.5 years with a traditional religious order, according to the spirit of Saint Dominic, La Fraternité Saint-Vincent Ferrier. Some of the best years, months of my life, most formative time of my life, without a doubt. But while there, I discerned a call closer to the missionary fronts of evangelization. So I chose to leave and was soon providentially, through an incredible encounter, hired as a college campus missionary. With God's providence and inspiration, along with the concrete experiences, the learning, the amazing counsel I've received through so much spiritual direction and formation, I've now been blessed to find a new mission to inspire saints among college-aged people and young adults in general, called Souls of the Christian Apostolate. It's based on the classic book Soul of the Apostolate by Trappist monk Dom Chotard, written about a little over 100 years ago, the first draft. This book lays out a method of evangelization that necessitates a deep interior life by choosing just a few souls to challenge them with great depth of interior life with God. The premise is really actually simple. The development of the interior life of grace, what we get from baptism, is the end, the goal, the finality of evangelization. And it is this authentic interior life that must be the foundation of all apostolic endeavors. By replicating this, the world will be set on fire by saints, by spreading this authentic reality with God. But we've all heard this notion of let's be saints. I mean, let's be real. Right now, we're told this all the time by many people in and out of the church. Let's just be great people. But really, do we know what this means? Because of the life of grace, we are actually called to a sort of divinization, a participation in the divine life, the life of the Trinity. We are recreated, made new creations with Christ by grace, by our baptism, with the end in mind of the Beatific Vision. The Beatific Vision is just, it's something beyond what we can comprehend. It's an intimate knowledge and sight of God, ecstatic love and bliss and happiness for all of eternity, forever praising Him, forever, never ending. But to choose God, to receive everything, as St. John of the Cross would say, we must choose nothing and be detached from everything. So what is the universal call to holiness? Well, the height of holiness is what spiritual theologians and doctors of the church call the transforming union. According to them, there are 3 different stages of the spiritual life: the purgative, the illuminative, and the unitive stage. Each is broken into different stages themselves, corresponding to different levels of prayer and virtue. But to simply be in the first stage, the purgative stage, requires a state of grace. You can't be in mortal sin. You can't be dead in your soul. And to just start progressing in the first stage, the purgative stage, to get past the very initial beginning, is to resolve to never commit a mortal sin and to live for God. Few Catholics ever reach merely the second stage, the illuminative way, the phase where spiritual activity shifts from primarily active efforts by the soul to passively inspired work and infused contemplation of God, of grace, given by God Himself. This is what we need, we absolutely need, in order to be purified of our hidden faults and truly attain perfection, the heights of holiness and sainthood, the universal call to holiness. Striving and praying for this infused contemplation is the way of saints, and is the primary aim of those in souls of the Christian apostolate. To dispose ourselves to this all-important gift of grace, however, requires a regimented rule of life with daily routine of a rising time, prayer, rosary, spiritual reading, examination of conscience, and other spiritual works. In a word, it requires spiritual athletes, or you could even say spiritual Navy SEALs. Now, in our context today, particularly, masculinity is shot. Many young men are searching to be called to greatness, just as I had been. The call of the Catholic faith is this: face the reality of original sin which separates us and leads us on the path toward eternal damnation by being sanctified through the sacraments, leading to a flourishing life of grace and eventually heaven, eternity with God. That is, participation in the divine life above the work of Christ's redemption of sin in ourselves and all the souls of the church militant and the church suffering. We have the opportunity right now in this short life, one shot, before we are stuck with the merit or demerit we have attained at the moment of our death, which could be today or tomorrow, for all of eternity, forever. This weightiness and meaning of our life, this gravitas, or gravity in Latin, is exactly what I was looking for and what men are looking and just begging someone to say implicitly into their lives. Now, particularly, again, in our world that is so full of impurity and atheism and disbelief, that acts as a gateway for demons to tempt us in so many abominable ways. This gate of salvation, as Christ says, is as narrow perhaps as it's ever been. And it's all the more necessary today that we have a bond of brotherhood to achieve this work of salvation and redemption in our souls. We need accountability to start building these habits of spiritual reading and rising at the right time and having discipline in our lives. And rather than being dispersed with so many goals, we need to aim for the one thing necessary with this routine on a daily basis, especially with mental prayer, because that's where we flourish in the life of grace in our soul. This precise, in-depth, and frequent accountability with mental prayer, that's clear, the goal is clear, is exactly what we do in Souls of the Christian Apostolate, or SOCA. Our success is dependent on your help, though. Imagine this: we have the opportunity right now to cooperate with God's grace in the midst of one of the greatest crises of the faith in the history of the church, to start a movement of Navy SEAL Catholic apostles who evangelize, spread traditional Catholicism, and inspire not only a minimal, but a flourishing interior life in others. This is the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ, even, perhaps especially, for us living in the darkness of sin and lies of the devil today. Really, it's exciting times right now with the opportunity we have to follow Christ and his cross by giving everything to the will of God and win the prize of eternal glory. We have the opportunity right now to redeem the times and merit a greater and greater and greater reward with the short time given us in this life. Join us in fighting this battle for the redemption and eternal salvation of souls, the battle inspiring the formation of saints. Thank you and God bless.